creative entrepreneur. Basically, I am a hip hop artist. I run a boutique label called King's Dream Entertainment. And you like that little bomb I just dropped? Uh,
Ruslan.
but yeah, I run a boutique label called King's Dream Entertainment with KingsDreamENT.com. I have been full time with music for 4 years, just past the 4 year anniversary of me being a full time artist. I am beyond excited to go on to my 5th year being a full time artist and running the label for the past 4 years. We've consistently grossed 6 figures. Now, when I say gross, that's not what I'm putting in my personal bank account, because those of you guys have ever done any type of business know that there is a cost to doing business, right? There is expenses, there's vendors you got to pay. In my case, there's artists I got to pay. So nonetheless, past 4 years, every year I've been full time, I've grossed 6 figures, which has been fantastic. So this journey with money, though, hasn't always been this sweet. I grew up as a refugee. Me and my family came over from Azerbaijan, Baku, in the early 90s because of the pogroms of Baku. This is right before the fall of communism. And basically, we came out here with nothing. You know what I'm saying? We came out here with nothing. And my mom could speak English a little bit. My dad, not so much. And I couldn't speak English at all. I was a kid. And we had to adopt. We had to assimilate. And my dad ended up getting a job. And unfortunately, they split, which made growing up an immigrant, a refugee, not knowing the language, even tougher. And I grew up poor. Like, we were on welfare. We would go without eating sometimes. It was tough. It wasn't, all in all, like, it all worked out for me. But anyway, I grew up with a poverty mindset. And I grew up with the mindset of, well, the little guy can't get ahead. I guess this is all there is for me. The people at the top, they want to keep the little man down. And I grew up believing a lot of this stuff. And so my relationship with money wasn't very healthy. And then when I got saved in the early 2000s, I started going to church. I became a Christian, started putting my faith in Jesus. Some of that translated into church. It was a lot of, like, misquoting of scripture, right? Money is the root of all evil. It's actually not what it says. 1 Timothy 6:10 says, for the love of money is a root to all kinds of evil. So I slowly started to having a consciousness of money. Really, I didn't even understand how bad money was. I didn't understand how good or bad money was. I just knew that I didn't have any, right? And I ended up going to college. I ended up getting into a lot of student loan debt. I bought a brand new car. I co-signed on a condo with my mom right at the peak of the market in 2005. The market subsequently crashed, as most of us know, in 2008 or 9. I had moved out by that point and was married, and the condo ended up going to foreclosure. My accounts got levied. I thought I was going to have to file for bankruptcy in about 2010, 2011, and we knew that we didn't want to keep living this way. We knew that we needed to make some changes. And we started thinking through, like, what can we do different? And we heard about scripturally how debt wasn't a good idea. We heard that, there are some alternatives, some different ways of following God's ways of handling money that we wanted to apply, because me and my wife both came from poverty. We didn't come from much. And so we discovered this program called FPU by Dave Ramsey. You guys can Google it. This isn't a push for Dave Ramsey necessarily, but it was dope. It was great. It was exactly what we needed, and we ended up paying off $45,000 in debt in 18 months, fresh out of college, not working the greatest jobs, like kind of working trash jobs. And this is about all of 2011 into 2012. And I think we were officially debt-free the end of 2012. And, man, we worked hard. And I pushed super hard with my music. And we got debt-free. And it was the best feeling ever. And we basically, following Dave Ramsey's steps, you debt snowball your debts, your smallest debt to your largest debt. And so we, started with a little credit card, and then we moved on to the car, and then we moved on to the student loan. I never because people talk about student loan, they just kind of keep them around forever, like they're a member of the family. And I was like, I'm not going to be in debt. I just developed this passion, this hatred for debt because of Dave Ramsey. And since then, we haven't went back into debt. We don't have any credit cards. We don't believe in debt. But that really changed the trajectory of our lives. And it was a simple system for us to follow, to learn budgeting, to learn restraint, to learn discipline, to learn planning. And not just be a free spirit, not just be a creative, right? A lot of us who are artists, we make that excuse, well, I'm just a free spirit, I'm a creative. And I needed a system that taught me that. And so that taught me that. And then in the process, I ended up learning a lot about money. I learned about value. I learned about these different concepts and why they're important. And I needed to continue changing. And so after we became debt free, we ended up saving 6 months of expenses. We went and traveled, and we saw the world and took vacations right before my son was born. Levi will be 5 in November, so this is right around the time my wife was pregnant, about 5 summers ago, actually. Exactly 5 years ago, we went to Paris, we went to Rome, we went to New York, we went to Atlanta. We did a lot of traveling. We got it all out before my son was born, and we ended up saving 6 months of living expenses. I was working at my church at the time, which allowed me to do music and continue pressing into my job. And I eventually knew that I couldn't keep working a job and do music. And so I had to choose one, continue being in ministry or jump out the window, man, and go full time with music. And that's what I did. So that was a long journey, needless to say. That was a long journey. And in the process, I learned quite a bit about money. I learned some things that I think as a Christian culture, I think as people in general, we have such a backwards, toxic view of money. We misquote scripture. We think that the wealthy people are evil and all wealthy people are greedy. And that's just not true. That's just not true. A lot of wealthy people are very hardworking, very generous, very gracious. And so you ask yourself, well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Are they generous? Are they gracious because they're wealthy and they don't have to worry about anything? Or did they become wealthy by being generous and gracious and working hard, right? That is the question. And so I want to talk about money and why money is important. And if you're in the live stream, shout out to all you guys watching. Feel free to chime in and ask questions. You can do that. But I appreciate you guys being there. Let me know where you guys are watching from. That's cool. Even if you're watching a replay, I think that's super helpful. But why is money important? That's the big idea. And I'm going to eventually tell you guys how you can make more money and some things I'm going to be doing intentionally to help people make money. No weird get-rich-quick schemes. I'm not trying to sell you a pyramid or anything like that. I do not sell anything but my music and a little bit of indie merchandise and that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you guys some ways that you can make more money at the end of this video, but just rock with me for a minute. So look, money is simply the exchange of value. That's all it is, really, at the end of the day. Money is important because money is the exchange of value. You pay what you find valuable, right? You pay for things that you find valuable. You find your cell phone service valuable. Guess what? You're going to pay for your cell phone. You find YouTube very valuable. Maybe you'll get YouTube Red, like I have YouTube Red. You find food valuable. You find your roof over your head valuable. You find these things, clothes. Those are the things you pay for. And money is the exchange of value. So, very layman's terms, if you want to make more money, you have to figure out how to add more value. There's 8 billion people on the face of the earth, something like that, 7-8 billion. Cleaning is something that anybody can do. If you have 2 hands and 2 feet, you can clean. That is not a high valuable job because a lot of people can do that, bagging groceries, right? So these people are making, $11, $12, $13 an hour. In California, it might be cheap, might be less somewhere else. And it's not that they're invaluable, it's that the skill they provide adds that degree of value because more people can do it. So they're valuable in Christ and they're valuable as creatures of God, creation of God. But the skill that they're providing is something that a lot of people can do. So therefore, if you're going to clean, you're going to be making less money than someone that's a computer scientist, somebody that's coding, somebody that's engineering, right? You guys following me? It's the exchange of value, and your skill set is also the exchange of value. Anybody can clean. Anybody can learn to clean. If you have 2 hands, 2 feet, you're able-bodied, you can clean, right? But not anybody can code. Not anybody can create. Not anybody can sell. You guys follow me? So money is the exchange of value. Now, money is also a reflection of your stewardship. Money is a reflection of your stewardship. And stewardship, not to make it like a super mystical word, stewardship just means management. It means being a manager, meaning that money is a reflection of my stewardship in terms of how I handle the money that God gave me. It's not really my money. It's on loan to me. This body's on loan to me. My family's on loan to me. My money's on loan to me. It's ultimately on loan to me by God, who created me and created this mind, created this body. It's, and my favorite chapter of the Bible, y'all talk about Bible verses, my favorite chapter in the Bible is Matthew 25, and there's a series of 3 parables. After this live stream, go read it, go meditate on it. Matthew 25 starts with the wise and the foolish virgins, right? And the foolish virgins weren't ready with their oil and their light when the bridegroom came, so the foolish virgins got left out. The second parable is the parable of the talents, right? Someone had a king, someone that had a lot of property, loaned somebody 3 talents, somebody 5 talents, 3 talents, and 1 talent. The one with 5 flipped. The one with 3 flipped. The one with 1 buried it, right? And he got upset, and he gave back the 1, but the master, who's God in this parable, got upset and said, what are you doing? And casted him out, right? And the one who flipped, he welcomed him into his home, right? And so Matthew 25, that's a powerful parable. And so money in that passage, talent, money, they're the same thing, right? Money is a reflection of your stewardship and my stewardship. Unfortunately, we aren't all created equal. I was just talking to somebody today who looks at a pair of weights and they get ripped. And it's not fair, right? Like, they just look at some weights and they just get buff. And in that way, they are genetically different. I would say probably superior to me. Whereas me, I have to really eat right. I have to make sure I'm counting my macros. I'm getting enough protein. I'm playing basketball. I'm getting lean. I'm hitting the weights 6 times a week to try and build a physique. We're not all created the same. Doesn't mean that we're not all equal in the image of God. It just means that we're not all created the same in terms of our minds, in terms of how our bodies work, in terms of our strengths, in terms of our weaknesses, right? And so that creates how we manage stuff. How we supply and demand is one way to look at it, but it's also like, what are you doing with the talent and the treasure and the time that you've been given? And what can you do with these things that you've been given in this time and setting of having all this technology, right? And so it's a reflection of stewardship. Not everybody's going to get the 5 parables or the 3 parables. Some of us are going to have 1 or 2. Are we going to be discouraged that we're not as talented, that we're not as good looking, that we have to work 2 times harder to get half as far in weights? That's how I feel when it comes to training, right? I have to work twice as hard to get half as far as most people. And so those people bother me too, Brian. Bryce. I see those people bother me too, and I was giving him a hard time. I was like, "Oh, bro, you're one of them dudes you're just naturally fit, aren't you?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, you don't count, bro. You know, like I want to for when it comes to fitness, I want to hear from somebody that isn't naturally fit that then got fit." And so when it comes to money, I'm not somebody that was born into wealth. I'm not somebody that is naturally good at saving money, naturally good at earning money. I'm someone that had to learn these principles. So number 1, money is the exchange of value. Number 2, money is a reflection of your stewardship on to God, okay? Number 3, money actually isn't as important as we think. I know you're like, whoa, it's a contradiction. The video is called Why is Money Important? Money isn't as important as we think. You know what's really important, guys? What's important is our relationship with God. What's important is our relationship with our families, relationship with our friends, the people that we could help, right? Which is the last part of Matthew 25 as it goes into the parable of the least of these, and caring for those who were in prison, and going and visiting them, and providing for the orphan, right? That the point of money isn't the most important point. The point of money is that money is a tool to do things for the kingdom and to help people. So money isn't the most important thing. And this is what I'll give you guys an example of. Now, I have done, built multiple businesses, have released multiple artists. We've grossed 6 figures consistently for the past 4 years in a row. I got a YouTube platform, this channel that's growing. The Patreon community is growing. My streams are growing. Everything is going great. But in my household, you know who actually adds the most amount of value? It's not me. It's actually my wife. My wife is who adds the most amount of value. My wife is who homeschools my son Levi, who just started. Levi is very advanced. Levi is reading. Levi is doing great in math. Levi is killing it. My wife keeps the house running. My wife makes sure that we get to eat healthy food. My wife plans out a lot of our trips, and make sure that we spend time together. My wife is actually the most valuable part, and the most valuable thing in my life is my wife, and she runs our household. And so if we're looking at money, we were joking last night, and I was like, someday when you go back to work. And the truth is, I don't want her to go back to work, because the opportunity cost of my wife not being at home, like, it would cost us more to do all that. And so I actually don't want her to ever go back to work, because she's that much more valuable. Now, she's not generating money, but she's more valuable than me to my household. You guys understand what I'm saying? So that money really isn't all that important. Now, why do I say that? Because if you want to create an environment for your kids where you don't have to send them to childcare, where you don't have to leave them with a family member to raise them, where you can be in your kids' life, guess what? One of you guys has to be able to provide a comfortable enough of a lifestyle for your spouse, your future spouse, and your kid, so that the other one could stay home and add that much value. So the other one could actually do all the things that we aren't doing. And women completely have superpowers. My wife is a superhero. That is a fact. I actually say that in the song Third Option, right? And so why am I saying all this? Is because my wife is the most valuable in my house, not me. Money is just a tool to create the type of environment where we can focus on our son, where we can focus on our health, where we could focus on saving, where we could focus on giving, where we could focus on helping. My wife is the one who creates that environment, creates that atmosphere, and she's the most valuable. And so some of you guys are feeling conflicted to make more money, but the reality is, if you made more money, you would not only add more value, not only would you be a better steward of your money, you could actually create the type of life where you could be optimally a blessing to your future kids, to your spouse, to your neighbors, to your church, right? That is just a fact. And so this verse right here haunts me. I'm going to read you guys 2 verses that haunt me, and I mean haunt me. The first one is 1 Timothy 5:8. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. 1 Timothy 5:8. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives and especially for their own household has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. My job, and this isn't like a male versus female thing, but I do believe that in my household, I'm called to be the provider. I'm called to financially provide and create the type. And mind you, we live in Southern California. I'm an entrepreneur. We're in San Diego, one of the most expensive places to live in the world. Shout out to all y'all that live in like Texas and like, you know what I'm saying, Montana. We live in a very, very, very expensive part of the country. So I take this very seriously. And I've gotten some pushback on some of the videos where, I'll tweet something and somebody will be like, well, the most important thing is Jesus. And how can we lead people to Jesus? And I'm like, well, according to 1 Timothy 5:8, it says that if I don't provide for the needs of my family, that I am worse than an unbeliever. So I could be telling people about Jesus and be broke and not being a good leader and not being a good steward and not adding value. That's not cool to me. You know what I'm saying? That's not dope to me. And so money is a tool to help people. Money is a tool to build a life where your kids can thrive, where your spouse can thrive, where you can be a blessing to people. And that verse haunts me. And I'll read you guys another one. And this is in terms of how to make more money, we're going to kind of segue this way right now. And I'm going to tell you guys about some stuff I'm going to be doing to actually help you guys more money. No get rich quick schemes, no weirdo stuff. I'm not selling Amway. I'm not trying to get y'all to sell anything for me. I'm going to be doing something to help you guys make more money. But before we get into that, check it out. This was a verse I heard listening to Dave Ramsey's podcast, and I've done it on my pre-gym proverbs. I do a pre-gym proverb almost every morning before I go to the gym. On my Instagram, you should go hop on Instagram with me, chop it up in the mornings when I'm on. It says, Proverbs 12:11 says, those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. Those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. So for me, my favorite verse is also John 10:10, right? That's what King's Dream is based on. Jesus says, I've come to give you life and life in the abundance. That abundance, that peace, even the word prosperity means peace, right? Abundance. It's not all about money. I already explained why it's not about all about money. It's about money you being a tool, and it's ultimately about helping people with your money, right? That's what it's for. Either you will love money and use people, or you will use money to love people, right? That's a Mark Driscoll quote. I think it's fire. So this idea of chasing fantasies, I knew that in my life I had to make music not a fantasy, not a hobby. I needed to make it a career. And again, I have a very unique personality. I have some very unique skill sets that I've acquired over almost 2 decades of doing this thing. I'm a unique guy, but I believe that these principles can apply to a lot of us, right? So those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense, right? Proverbs 12:11. And I remember talking to my wife. It was New Year's Eve, 2010, almost 10 years ago. Goodness gracious. And I said, hey, babe, I don't want to be in the same spot I am next year with music. And she said, okay, what does that mean? I said, I need you to hold me accountable to make this music thing a career. I'm going to give myself 1 year. So this time next year, I can't be in the same place, because I heard this on the Dave Ramsey podcast. Those who chase fantasies have no sense. Music wasn't going to be a fantasy for me. This had to be a career. I had to use it to provide for my family. I had to use it to pay off my debt. Remember, I was in a lot of debt. And 2011, I was a part of a group called The Breaks with Belief. We dropped a remix every single Wednesday called Remix Wednesdays. We dropped 3 mixtapes with DJ Wado and 2 commercial releases. We ended up collaborating with Andy Mineo, Lecrae. We had a phenomenal year. And when that conversation came around the following year, New Year's Eve 2012, 2011, there was no question. There was no you everything you, literally my wife said this, everything you said you would do, you did, and you did even more. And something about giving yourself time limits, something about restraining how much you're going to just keep spinning your wheels, is powerful, man. And so, money to me is about having an open hand mentality. It's about having an open hand mentality and saying that it's not my money. I'm just a steward of it. And to me, that does come into generosity as a whole. My man Robert asked if we tithe. Yeah, we do tithe. But we attempt to do more than just tithe. We attempt to look for people in we tithe to our local church. I think you should tithe. To me, that's a silly question. If you don't tithe, I would go back to that money is the exchange of value. If you don't tithe, to me, what that's saying, well, if you don't give, if you're not generous, to me, what that would say is that you're probably not finding your local church that valuable. And I think that's a deeper issue. But this isn't about tithing. I don't think that's like a absolute law. That's just a principle we live by. And I think it's a good gauge. Hey, man, 10% of what I get, I'm going to give back to God because I value God. I value my church family, and I value the principles of being generous. Remember the question I asked you guys: are wealthy people generous and happy and healthy because they're wealthy, or did they become wealthy by being generous, happy, healthy, you know what I mean, low stress levels, taking care of their bodies. Which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? I think it's actually these principles that help us become wealthy, not the other way around. And these principles, again, I'm specifically speaking to people who are in North America, who are of sound body and able mind, okay? So we're not all the same, okay? I'm speaking to people who are of sound body, able mind, able body, sound mind, people who are attempting to build something out of their life, right? People who you're not on disability. You guys understand what I'm saying? There's no crazy physical ailment for anything you're going through. So those two verses, horrifying. Those two verses lit a fire under me. And I ended up building a 6-figure business with music. Now, I'm not doing this video because I'm trying to sell you something. I'm not. Most of you guys who are watching this are already in the Patreon community. If there's anything you could do to support me, support the Patreon community. That really is the way I'm shifting everything in terms of my personal finances. Now, how to make more money, right? This is maybe what you've been waiting for. I told you guys why money is important. Money is the exchange of value. Money is a reflection of our stewardship, our management of the things that God has given us. And money isn't as important. People are actually important, right? So how to make more money? Well, I told you guys, anybody can clean, right? Anybody can clean. So if you want to make more than someone who cleans, you have to create and offer more value. That means you may have to work on your skill set. If you want to make what an engineer makes, maybe you need to learn how to engineer. If you want to learn what a computer scientist makes, maybe you need to learn how to code. If you see what I'm saying? If you want to make what a video editor makes, maybe you need to learn how to edit video, right? Offer more value. That's the basic way, right? Offer more value. How to make more money? Another way to make more money is to solve a problem. Look out into the marketplace, into a niche, solve a problem, right? Fill a need. Is there a need that you see that no one's fulfilling, right? And this isn't just for entrepreneurs. You could do this at your job. You could do this at your church. I got on staff at my church and made the most money I've ever made prior to being an entrepreneur because I saw a need in my church and I filled it. I started doing the video announcements. They hired me. That was a need. I filled it. Boom, right? Be consistent. So many of you guys want to start record labels and YouTube pages and careers in music and guitar lessons, and you're not consistent. You do it for a week or two and then you quit, right? Be consistent. I've been consistent. This is an overflow of me doing these things and being consistent with this for almost 2 decades. And now for the past 4 years, going on 5 years, we've grossed $100,000 a year. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg for what I'm trying to do, right? So be consistent. And the last I would say is build relationships. Build relationships. Get around people who are more creative than you, who are more talented than you, who make more money than you. Just being in the room, just having access to somebody is so important. I'm going to be doing some of you guys' Q&As here in a second. But listen, in the last month, I've met 2 people who both have built 7-figure businesses doing the very thing that they love. Now, 7 figures, right? I'm a 6-figure entrepreneur. They built 7 figures, right? And man, they're special. They're special people. But it does a couple things. One, it gives me access to someone that just thinks on a different wavelength. I'm thinking at 6 figures. I'm thinking how to do multiple 6 figures. They're thinking 7 figures. They're thinking teams. They're thinking scale. They're thinking just on a different wavelength. And these people, both of these guys, love Jesus. They're hardworking. They're good guys, man. Good people. And you'll hear some of their stories. I mean, I've actually already interviewed one of them. And so, man, I end up thinking different because of the relationships I've built. And you can get so wrapped up in your own bubble. You can get so wrapped up thinking that there's only one way, that you have to work a job you hate. You know, they say 67% of Americans hate their job, dislike their job. 67%. 67%. I mean, 7 out of the 10 people at your job, and you might be one of them 7, don't like what they do, right? They say a majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Majority of Americans have over $10,000 in debt. This is normal, guys. This is normal, okay? I want you, the little small tribe we're building here on YouTube, on Patreon, I want y'all to be abnormal. I want you guys to be like freaks. like weirdos. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to money, like I want us to be weirdos. I want the world to look at us and be like, yo, what? You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of that comes from just relationships. That comes from getting around people. I'm operating, and some of you guys, like some of y'all, we build in a Zoom call on a Patreon, and you guys get inspired and from having access to me. But I get even more inspired by having access to seven-figure entrepreneurs, right? And so, building those relationships, man. Building those relationships is key. Being around people. Right now, I'm doing a Ryan Leslie challenge. Watched him on a Producer Grind podcast. He's doing a challenge where he encouraged people to make 30 calls a day. I can't do that, you know, but he talked about like the importance of network, the importance of expanding your reach of people. And you know what? For me, I had like a FaceTime call with some brothers today that was just super inspiring, man. Just super inspiring. And so build those relationships. Build those relationships. So those are some very practical ways you could offer more value in the marketplace. That's probably going to come down to you having to learn a skill set that you're not comfortable learning. Having to, let me phrase it this way, having to suffer through learning a skill set, right? Suffer through doing something you don't naturally do well. Right? For me, I have to suffer to go to the gym every morning. I try to create a healthy amount of suffering in my life daily. So learn to suffer through these things and to offer more value, right? Solve a problem. Both of these brothers that I was talking about that are building seven-figure businesses, they are solving problems. They're filling needs. And they're doing it within the last this is within the last year they've gotten that point. And they're consistent. And they build relationships. They're some of the most friendliest, generous people you'll ever meet. Tithing, that's not even a common, like the idea that we even have to talk about tithing, like that's not something I talk about with wealthy Christians. It's just like, of course we give. Of course, I'm trying to give above 10% this month, right? That's not a flex, but that's the consistency of being disciplined and having that open hand mentality with money. So in closing, if you guys got questions, ask right now on the live YouTube. I'm going to answer a few of them. I don't want to stay too long on here, but in closing, man, what I'm going to be doing is September 1st, I'm going to be doing a ebook that's going to turn into a class. It's going to be called, I think tentatively, it's going to be called How to Make Your First $1,000 from Music, or maybe from art or something like that. But how to make your first $1,000 from music. That's the big idea. And that's going to be available for every single Patreon on Patreon. The ebook version of that is going to be available on Patreon. So if you're a Patreon, stay locked in. If you're not a Patreon, go sign up. As a Patreon, you get to cut the line. You get to be on a Zoom call with us and get access to me and the rest of the Patreon community. And you're going to get access to this book. And I got 8 or 9 interviews getting ready to drop. I got an interview with Wendy Day. Wendy Day wrote a book that changed my life. Amazing book called How to Get a Record Deal. The entire book is about how to telling you how to get a record deal so you never ever need a record deal, right? Ownership, owning your masters, owning your publishing. Like, she gives the blueprint for that. I have an interview with her. It's fire. I got an interview with Ace Harris from Reach Records about how to get on their radar, basically. I got an interview with Brandman Sean. I got an interview with Sho Baraka. We're just gonna drop those, boom, right away on Patreon. I think I'm gonna drop all of them, and then we're gonna leak the content out. Or maybe I won't drop all of them. I don't know if y'all can handle that much content. But anyway, how to make your first $1,000. That's coming. I got it outlined. I'm gonna write it. My wife is gonna edit it for me. That's gonna be very, very. Oh yeah, merch discounts. Thank you. That's gonna be very, very, very linearly laid out. It's not just for rappers and producers. I just call it for music because a lot of you guys do that. But this is for anybody looking to start a clothing brand. It's anybody who's looking to start any type of mom and pop small business that you could scale. I'm going to teach you guys how to make your first $1,000. I'm not selling you Amway. I'm not selling you no get rich quick scheme. This is going to take a lot of work and a lot of effort, but I'm going to give you guys the blueprint in one package, and